Captain Ji-won Park stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge and watched the massive council station grow larger through the main screen. The metal structure stretched for hundreds of kilometers in every direction, its silver surface gleaming under the light of 3 distant suns. This was her 20th visit to the station, but she still felt small when she saw it. Humanity had been coming here for 50 years now, always as the junior members of the Galactic Council, always asking for permission, always being told to wait. Dr. Min-ho Kim walked up beside her and adjusted his uniform. He carried a data pad with their latest research proposals, the same kind they had been submitting for decades. Most would be rejected or delayed for years. Some would disappear completely into the Council's review process. Min-ho had learned not to get his hopes up anymore. "Another diplomatic mission," Min-ho said quietly. "Another chance to ask for technology. They will never give us." Ji-won nodded but said nothing. She had similar thoughts but kept them to herself. As captain, she had to maintain hope for her crew, even when she felt none herself. The Council had rules about everything humans could and could not do. They could explore certain star systems, but not others. They could research specific technologies, but were forbidden from developing weapons or advanced space travel. The Council said it was for everyone's safety, to maintain peace in the galaxy. Lieutenant Yuna Lee sat at her communication station, monitoring the dozens of signals flowing between the Council station and various alien ships. Her job was to translate and organize the messages, but she had started noticing patterns in the data streams that seemed strange. There were encrypted channels that humans were never told about, and messages that used coding systems she had never seen before. "Captain, we are receiving docking instructions," Yuna reported. "Bay 7, Level 12. "Thank you, Lieutenant. Take us in." The horizon's edge moved slowly toward the docking bay. Through the windows, Ji-won could see other ships from different species. The tall, thin Altarians with their crystal ships. The heavy armored vessels of the Dracon Empire. The sleek, fast cruisers belonging to the Veil Consortium. All of them were full council members with voting rights and access to the most advanced technologies. Humans were the only species restricted to observer status. As they docked, Ji-won felt the familiar weight of frustration in her chest. 50 years ago, when humanity first made contact with the Council, they had been told it was temporary. They just needed to prove they were peaceful and responsible. But every year, there were new requirements, new tests, new reasons why humans were not ready for full membership. Min-ho gathered his research proposals and headed for the airlock. "I will be in Laboratory Section C with Dr. Nexith," he told Ji-won. "The usual meetings about genetic research and medical cooperation." Ji-won watched him go and wondered how he still had the patience for these meetings. Dr. Nexith was one of the Council's top scientists, and he always seemed interested in human biology, but their joint research projects never seemed to produce results that helped humanity. Everything they discovered was classified by the Council, or deemed too dangerous for human use. Yuna remained at her station, continuing to monitor communications. The Council station generated massive amounts of data traffic, and her job was to sort through it for anything relevant to human interests. Most of it was routine: shipping schedules, research reports, administrative messages. But today, something was different. She noticed a series of encrypted transmissions using a frequency band that was supposed to be unused. The encryption was unlike anything in the standard Council protocols. Yuna had always been good with patterns and codes, and something about these signals made her curious. She began running analysis programs on the data, trying to find a way to decode the messages. Hours passed. Ji-won attended her own meetings with Council administrators, discussing human expansion requests and trade agreements. As always, she was told that committees would review everything and provide answers in due time. She had heard the same words. So many times they had lost all meaning. Meanwhile, Min-ho met with Dr. Nexith in the genetics laboratory. The alien scientist was tall and pale, with 4 arms and large dark eyes that never seemed to blink. He spoke in the universal translator's flat, emotionless voice. "Dr. Kim, your latest samples from the human colonies are very interesting," Dr. Nexith said. "We have discovered some unusual genetic markers that require further study." Min-ho felt a small surge of hope. "Unusual how? Have we found something that could help with disease resistance or longevity?" "Perhaps. But first, we need more samples. Much more. And we will need access to your genetic databases from Earth and all the colonies. The request made Minho uncomfortable. The Council had been asking for more and more human genetic material over the years, always claiming it was for beneficial research. But humanity never seemed to receive any of the benefits from these studies. I will need to discuss this with my superiors, Minho said carefully. Dr. Nexith's large eyes focused on him. Of course, but please understand, time is important. Our research has shown that humans have some unique genetic qualities that could be very valuable for the entire galaxy. We must move quickly to understand them fully. Back on the horizon's edge, Yuna had made progress with the encrypted signals. Her analysis programs had found repeating patterns in the data, and she was beginning to see structure in what had seemed like random noise. The breakthrough came when she realized the encryption was using a mathematical sequence based on human genetic markers. That discovery made her blood run cold. Why would Council communications be encrypted using human DNA patterns? She worked faster, her fingers flying over the controls as she fed more processing power into the decryption algorithms. The first message she decoded made her stomach drop. Project Terran Harvest proceeding on schedule. Genetic samples from colonies 7, 12, and 15 show expected compliance markers. Recommend advancing to Phase 3 within 6 months. Yuna stared at the screen, reading the message over and over. Project Terran Harvest. Compliance markers. What did any of this mean? She quickly decoded more messages, and each one made the situation more horrifying. Biological weapon testing on human colony 23 successful. Population reduction of 15% achieved with no detection. Subjects remain unaware of cause. Recommend acceleration of suppression protocols. Human aggression levels dropping faster than projected. May need to adjust dosage in next vaccine shipment. Final phase preparation continues. Terran pacification protocol ready for implementation. Estimated timeline for complete species control, 18 months. Yuna's hands shook as she saved the decoded messages to a secure storage device. She had stumbled onto something enormous and terrible. The Council was not just restricting human development, they were actively working to control and harm humanity. The vaccines, the medical treatments, the genetic research, it was all part of some massive conspiracy. She looked around the bridge to make sure she was alone, then activated her personal communicator to contact Captain Park. Captain, I need to speak with you immediately. It's urgent. Jiwan's voice came back tense. Can it wait? I'm in the middle of trade negotiations. No, ma'am. This cannot wait. Please return to the ship as soon as possible. And bring Dr. Kim with you. Something in Yuna's voice made Jiwan's diplomatic instincts scream warnings. Understood. We'll be there in 20 minutes. When Jiwon and Minho returned to the horizon's edge, they found Yuna waiting in the captain's ready room, with her face pale and her hands still shaking. She had printed out the decoded messages and spread them across the table. Captain, Dr. Kim, you need to see this. Everything we thought we knew about the Council is wrong. Jiwon sat down and began reading. With each message, her expression grew darker. Minho read over her shoulder, and she could hear his breathing become faster and more shallow. This can't be real, Minho whispered. Dr. Nexith has been working with me for years. We're partners. Read message 17, Yuna said quietly. Minho found the message and read aloud. Dr. Nexith reports human subject Kim shows optimal conditioning. Recommend maintaining current cooperation levels while increasing genetic sample collection. Subject remains unaware of true research purpose. The words hit Minho like a physical blow. He had been Dr. Nexith's test subject, not his research partner. Every friendly conversation, every shared discovery, every moment of scientific collaboration had been a lie. He was nothing more than a lab rat being studied and manipulated. Jiwan stood up and began pacing. How long has this been going on? Based on the message timestamps, at least 20 years, Yuna said. But I think it goes back much further. Some of these references suggest the Council has been planning this since first contact. Planning what exactly? Yuna pointed to several messages. Complete control of humanity. They've been using our medical programs to make us more passive and compliant. They've been testing biological weapons on our colonies, and they're preparing something called the Terran Pacification Protocol. Jiwan felt a cold rage building in her chest. We need to warn Earth immediately. We can't use normal communications, Eunice said. They monitor everything, and if they realize we know about this... She didn't need to finish the sentence. They all understood that their lives, and possibly the lives of everyone they knew, Commander Hyok Nam had been exploring the outer edges of human space for 3 years, mapping new star systems and looking for signs of alien life. His ship, the Deep Explorer, was one of humanity's most advanced vessels, though still primitive compared to Council technology. He and his crew of 12 had grown used to the quiet, endless journey through empty space, jumping from system to system and finding nothing but dead rocks and gas giants. The Vega system was supposed to be empty. Council records showed no intelligent life, no valuable resources, and no reason for anyone to be there. That was why Hyok was surprised when his sensors detected artificial structures orbiting the 4th planet. Ensign Do-hyun, are you seeing this? Hyok asked his young sensor operator. Ensign Do-hyun Kang checked his readings twice before answering. Yes, sir. I'm detecting a large facility in orbit around Vega 4. The structure appears to be shielded, but I'm picking up power signatures and what looks like docking bays. Hyok frowned. According to Council law, no species was allowed to build facilities in uncharted systems without permission. If someone was operating in Vega illegally, it was his duty to investigate and report back to the Council. But something felt wrong about the situation. Take us in for a closer look, but keep us hidden behind the planet's moon. I want to observe before we make contact. As the Deep Explorer moved closer, the true size of the facility became clear. It was massive, easily the size of a small city, with multiple sections connected by long corridors. Ships moved in and out of the docking bays regularly, but Hyok did not recognize the designs. They were sleek and advanced, using technologies that seemed beyond anything humanity had access to. Commander, I'm detecting human life signs inside that facility, Do-hyun reported, his voice tight with confusion. Human? That's impossible. There are no human colonies in this system. I'm reading at least 2,000 human biosignatures. Sir, they appear to be stationary. Hyok felt ice form in his stomach. 2,000 humans in an illegal facility in empty space, all of them stationary. It sounded like some kind of prison or holding facility. He thought about reporting to the Council, but his instincts told him to investigate first. Prepare a stealth probe. I want detailed scans of that facility before we do anything else. The probe launched silently and drifted toward the station. Its advanced sensors began penetrating the facility's outer hull, mapping the internal structure and analyzing the energy patterns. What it found made no sense. The facility contained hundreds of rooms filled with stasis pods, each one containing a human being. There were laboratories with equipment designed for biological research. There were medical facilities that appeared to be conducting experiments on living subjects, and in the central section, there were detailed files and databases containing information about every human colony in known space. Sir, you need to see this, Do-hyun said, his face pale as he studied the probe's data. The facility's computers contain detailed plans for something called the Terran Pacification Protocol. And there are records going back 50 years, documenting genetic modifications made to human populations. Hyok studied the data streams flowing from the probe. The more he read, the more horrified he became. The facility was not just conducting experiments on humans, it was preparing for something much larger. The files contained detailed maps of every human world, population counts, genetic profiles, and what appeared to be target lists for biological weapons. Get me Admiral Cho on Emergency Channel 7, Hyok ordered. Maximum encryption. It took several minutes to establish the connection to Earth. When Admiral Tae-hyun Cho's face appeared on the screen, Hyok could see the man was already under stress. Commander Nam, your timing is interesting. We have just received some disturbing intelligence from Captain Park. Tell me what you have found. Hyok quickly explained the situation in the Vega system. As he spoke, he watched the Admiral's expression grow darker and more grim. Admiral, the facility contains thousands of human test subjects and detailed plans for biological attacks on our colonies. This appears to be connected to Council activities, but it's hidden from their official records. Commander, I need you to gather every piece of evidence you can from that facility, but do not engage directly. We are dealing with a conspiracy. That goes to the highest levels of the Council. Your safety and the safety of your crew are paramount. While Hayek and his crew worked to gather intelligence from the secret facility, Dr. Soyoung-bae was making her own disturbing discoveries back on Earth. As the head of genetic research at Seoul Medical University, she had access to decades of human health data from across all the colonies. She had been asked by Admiral Cho to review this data for any unusual patterns or trends. What she found kept her awake for 3 straight days. Starting approximately 45 years ago, human genetic markers had begun showing subtle but consistent changes. The changes were so gradual that no one had noticed them at the time, but when viewed across decades, the pattern was unmistakable. Human aggression levels had dropped by 30%. Problem-solving abilities had declined in specific areas related to military tactics and weapons development. Most disturbing of all, humans were showing increased susceptibility to certain types of psychological conditioning. So-young cross-referenced the genetic changes with medical records and found the source. Every vaccine, every medical treatment, every health supplement provided by the Council contained trace amounts of compounds designed to alter human brain chemistry. The changes were so small that individual doses had no detectable effect, but over years and decades they had fundamentally altered human nature. She called Admiral Cho immediately. "Admiral, we have been poisoned. Not to kill us, but to change us. The Council has been using our own medical system to make us passive and compliant." "How bad is it, Doctor?" "Every human alive has been affected to some degree. We are not the same species we were 50 years ago. We have been systematically altered to be less aggressive, less innovative in certain areas, and more susceptible to authority. We are becoming the perfect servant race." Admiral Cho was quiet for a long moment. "Can it be reversed?" "I believe so, but it will be dangerous. The genetic changes are extensive, and rapid reversal could cause serious side effects. We would need volunteers for testing, and we would need to keep the project completely secret from the Council." "Do whatever is necessary, Doctor. Time may be shorter than we think." So-young began working immediately, but she was not the only scientist making dangerous discoveries. Across human space, researchers who had been asked to investigate Council activities were finding evidence of a massive, coordinated effort to control and manipulate humanity. Dr. Jae-hyun Park, working at the Mars Research Station, discovered that Council-provided terraforming equipment had been designed to make human colonies dependent on regular chemical treatments. Without these treatments, the atmospheric processors would fail, and the colonies would become uninhabitable within months. Engineer Woo Jin-han, analyzing Council technology provided to human ships, found hidden programming that would allow external control of all human vessels. The Council could disable or take control of any human ship at any time, leaving humanity completely defenseless. Dr. Kyung-min Lee, studying Council educational materials used in human schools, discovered that the information was carefully edited to remove references to human military history, technological innovation, and anything that might inspire independent thinking or resistance to authority. Every discovery painted the same picture. For 50 years, the Council had been systematically weakening humanity in preparation for something. The evidence suggested that the final phase of their plan was approaching rapidly. Captain Ji-won Park's ship, the Horizon's Edge, was still racing toward Earth with the original intelligence when they received an emergency message from Admiral Cho. "Captain Park, we have confirmation of your intelligence from multiple sources. The situation is worse than we initially believed. The Council has been preparing for what appears to be the complete subjugation of humanity. You are ordered to proceed to coordinates I am transmitting now for a classified briefing with senior command staff." The coordinates led to a small asteroid research station in the belt between Mars and Jupiter. When the Horizon's Edge arrived, Ji-won was surprised to find 12 other human ships already there, including Commander Nam's Deep Explorer, Admiral. Cho met them in the station's main briefing room, along with representatives from all major human colonies and research facilities. The room was filled with tension and barely controlled anger as the Admiral presented the full scope of what they had discovered. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are facing an existential threat. The Galactic Council has been conducting a 50-year campaign to genetically and technologically enslave humanity. They have altered our biology, sabotaged our technology, and positioned weapons throughout human space. Intelligence suggests they are preparing to implement something called the Terran Pacification Protocol within the next 6 months." Dr. Soyoung-bae stood up from her seat. "Admiral, I have been analyzing the genetic modifications. Based on the progression I'm seeing in the data, I believe the Council is preparing to trigger a final change that will essentially lobotomize our entire species. General Sunmi Ro stood in the command center of Earth's planetary defense headquarters, watching data streams from across human space flow across the massive display screens. 3 weeks had passed since the emergency briefing at the asteroid station, and humanity had been secretly mobilizing for war while maintaining the pretense of peaceful cooperation with the Council. The deception was the hardest part. Every day, human representatives continued their normal diplomatic activities, attending council meetings, submitting research proposals, and acting like loyal junior members of the galactic community. Meanwhile, in hidden facilities across human space, the largest military buildup in human history was taking place. "General, we have an update from Dr. Bay's genetic research team," reported Colonel Bora Sim, the head of Earth's Special Operations Division. "What's their status?" "The first round of genetic reversal treatments has been completed on 1,000 volunteers. The results are dramatic." Sunmi turned away from the displays to face Bora directly. "Explain." "The volunteers are experiencing significant increases in aggression, tactical thinking, and physical capabilities. But they're also reporting psychological effects that are difficult to control. Increased paranoia, heightened emotional responses, and what Dr. Bay describes as predatory instincts that were completely suppressed before." Sunmi nodded grimly. "In other words, we're remembering what humans were like before the Council started drugging us." "Yes, ma'am. Dr. Bay believes these are our natural characteristics, suppressed by 50 years of genetic manipulation. The volunteers are essentially experiencing what it means to be fully human for the first time in their lives." The implications were staggering. If Dr. Bay was correct, then every human alive had been living as a shadow of their true potential. The Council had not just restricted human technology and territory, they had fundamentally altered human nature itself. What about the volunteers? Are they able to function normally? That's the remarkable part, General. Once they adjust to the changes, they report feeling more alert, more creative, and more capable than ever before. Lieutenant Yuna Lee was among the first volunteers, and her analytical abilities have increased dramatically. She's now able to decrypt Council communications in real time. Across the solar system on Mars, engineer Wu Jin Han was having the most productive weeks of his career. The genetic reversal treatment had unlocked capabilities he never knew he possessed, and he was applying them to the massive project of reverse engineering and improving upon Council technology. Working with a team of similarly enhanced engineers, Wu Jin had made discoveries that shocked even him. Human technology had always been more advanced than the Council claimed. The equipment they provided to humanity was deliberately inferior, designed to keep humans dependent and technologically limited. "The gravitational drive systems they gave us are operating at maybe 10% efficiency," Wu Jin explained to his team. "Our own research from 30 years ago had already developed better solutions, but the Council convinced us to abandon those projects in favor of their proven technology." Dr. Yoon-hyuk Kim, one of the enhanced engineers, looked up from his workstation. "I've been analyzing the quantum computers they provided for our research stations. They contain hardwired limitations that prevent certain types of calculations. Specifically anything related to weapons development, faster-than-light communication, or advanced propulsion." Wu Jin felt a familiar surge of anger that had been growing stronger since his genetic treatment. The Council had not just restricted human development, they had actively sabotaged it. Every gift of technology had been a chain. Every act of cooperation had been a form of control. How long will it take to develop our own versions without these limitations? Based on our current rate of progress, maybe 2 months. But Wu Jin, the capabilities we're unlocking are incredible. I think we can build ships that are faster and more maneuverable than anything the Council has. The thought both excited and terrified Wu Jin. Humanity was on the verge of a technological revolution, but they were running out of time to implement it before the Council's final phase began. On the frontier world of New Busan, Captain Jemin Yu was dealing with a different kind of challenge. As commander of the Mars Colonial Fleet, he was responsible for the defense of 17 human colonies scattered across 12 star systems. The genetic enhancement had made him a more effective tactical thinker, but it had also made him aware of just how vulnerable humanity's scattered settlements really were. Captain, we have completed the weapons inventory you requested, reported Lieutenant Sehun Park, his aide. The results are not encouraging. Jamin studied the data on his personal tablet. The Council's restrictions on human military development meant that most colony defense forces were equipped with technology that was decades behind what other species possessed. Worse, much of their equipment contained the same hidden limitations and control systems that Wu Jin's team had discovered in civilian technology. What about the secret weapons caches that Admiral Cho mentioned? We found them, sir. Apparently, some colonial administrators have been quietly stockpiling equipment for years, despite Council regulations. The weapons are primitive by Council standards, but they're entirely human-built with no external control systems. Jamin felt a grim satisfaction. Even under decades of genetic suppression, some humans had retained enough survival instinct to prepare for a fight. It would not be enough to match the Council's superior technology, but it was a start. Begin distributing the weapons to all colonial defense forces, but do it quietly. If the Council suspects what we're doing, they might move up their timeline. Back on Earth, Dr. So-Young Bae was working around the clock to expand the genetic reversal program. The initial results had been so successful that Admiral Cho had authorized treatment for 10,000 more volunteers, despite the risks involved. Dr. Bae, we have a problem, announced Dr. Min Seok Jung, her research partner. The Council medical inspectors have scheduled a surprise visit to review our genetic research facilities. So-Young felt her enhanced reflexes kick in, her mind immediately calculating threats and responses. When? 3 days from now. They say it's a routine inspection, but the timing seems suspicious. The genetic enhancements had made So-Young more paranoid, but they had also made her better at detecting patterns and threats. The Council had never conducted surprise inspections before. Something had triggered their suspicion. We need to hide all evidence of the reversal program immediately. Move the volunteers to off-site locations and replace all our research data with fake studies. If they discover what we're doing, she did not need to finish the sentence. If the Council learned that humans were reversing their genetic modifications, they would almost certainly accelerate their timeline and implement the pacification protocol immediately. The next 3 days were a frantic race to conceal the evidence of humanity's secret preparations. Enhanced humans worked with desperate efficiency to hide weapons, disguise research, and maintain the facade of loyal cooperation with the Council. When the Council inspectors arrived, they found exactly what they expected to see: compliant humans, conducting harmless research under Council supervision. Dr. Nexeth, the alien scientist who had been manipulating Dr. Minho Kim for years, led the inspection team. Dr. Bae, your genetic research has been proceeding well, Dr. Nexeth said in his flat, emotionless voice. We are particularly interested in your latest findings on human neural chemistry. So-Young smiled and presented falsified data that showed her research was progressing exactly as the Council expected. Inside, her enhanced instincts were screaming warnings. Dr. Nexeth's questions were too specific, too focused on exactly the areas where her real research had been most successful. Of course, Dr. Nexeth. As you can see, our studies confirm the effectiveness of Council medical protocols in optimizing human brain function. Dr. Nexeth's large eyes studied her for a long moment. Yes, very good. However, we have detected some unusual readings in your facility's power consumption. Are you conducting any research that has not been reported to us? The question was a trap, and So-Young knew it. Her enhanced pattern recognition was picking up subtle cues in Dr. Nexeth's behavior that suggested he already suspected the truth. But her genetic modifications had also enhanced her ability to lie convincingly under pressure. The increased power consumption is from our new quantum analysis equipment, provided by the Council last month. We are using it to study human genetic samples more thoroughly as you requested. Dr. Nexeth accepted her explanation, but So-Young could tell he was not entirely convinced. When the inspection team finally left, she immediately contacted Admiral Cho. Admiral, I believe our cover has been compromised. Dr. Nexeth was asking very specific questions about our research. I think the Council suspects something. Admiral Cho's enhanced tactical thinking reached the same conclusion. Doctor, how many personnel have received the genetic reversal treatment? Approximately 3,000 across all human territories, sir. That will have to be enough. Begin immediate implementation of Phase 2. Phase 2 was the code name for humanity's transition from secret preparation to active resistance. Across human space, enhanced individuals began taking control of key facilities and communication. Admiral Taehyun Cho stood in the war room deep beneath Seoul, surrounded by holographic displays showing the positions of human and council forces across the galaxy. 3 days had passed since Operation Awakening had revealed the truth to humanity, and the council's response had been swift and brutal. "Admiral, we have confirmed the destruction of the new Sol colony," reported Colonel Bora Sim, her enhanced reflexes barely containing the rage that burned in her eyes. 200,000 civilians dead. The Council used some kind of biological weapon that killed everyone within 6 hours. Taehyun felt something cold and terrible settling in his chest. The genetic reversal treatment had not just restored human aggression and tactical thinking, it had also awakened emotions that had been suppressed for 50 years. The fury he felt at the murder of an entire colony was unlike anything he had ever experienced. What about the other frontier colonies? New Jeju went silent 4 hours ago. New Incheon is reporting atmospheric toxins of unknown origin. Sir, they're implementing the pacification protocol ahead of schedule, but instead of controlling us, they're trying to exterminate us. Dr. Kyu-hyun Park, the head of weapons research, looked up from his workstation. "Admiral, the biological agents they're using are derived from human genetic material. They designed these weapons specifically to target our DNA. This isn't a last-minute decision. They've been planning to genocide us from the beginning." The revelation hit the room like a physical blow. The Council had never intended to enslave humanity. They had been preparing to commit complete species extinction. The genetic modifications, the technological restrictions, the careful monitoring. It had all been part of a systematic plan to study humans thoroughly before wiping them out. "Sir, incoming message from Captain In-hee Choi aboard the Silent Fury," announced Lieutenant Yuna Lee from her communication station. Her genetic enhancements had made her the most capable intelligence analyst in human space, able to process and decrypt massive amounts of data in real time. Captain In-hee Choi's face appeared on the main screen, broadcasting from the bridge of humanity's most advanced stealth destroyer. She had been conducting reconnaissance behind Council lines when the pacification protocol began. "Admiral, I have eyes on a Council fleet moving toward Earth. 147 ships, including 12 dreadnoughts. They're broadcasting. Surrender demands, but their weapons are powered and targeting our major population centers." Taehyun studied the tactical display. The Council fleet was massive, equipped with technology that should have been able to destroy Earth's defenses easily. But they were also dealing with humans who were no longer the passive, predictable species they had been manipulating for 50 years. "Captain Choi, you are authorized to engage the enemy fleet, using any means necessary." "Understood, sir." Beginning. Attack run now. What happened next would be remembered as the moment the galaxy learned what humans were truly capable of when their artificial restraints were removed. Captain In-hee Choi had received genetic enhancement 3 weeks earlier, and the changes had transformed her from a competent military officer into something that bordered on superhuman. Her tactical thinking operated on multiple levels simultaneously, processing dozens of variables and potential outcomes in real time. The Silent Fury was not the most powerful ship in space, but it had been built using purely human technology, without Council limitations. Engineer Woo Jin-han's team had designed its systems to take advantage of human cognitive abilities that the Council had never properly understood. "Target the lead dreadnought," In-hee ordered her crew. "All power to engines. Execute attack pattern Omega 7. The Silent Fury accelerated to speeds that should have been impossible for a ship of its size. Human engineering had always focused on elegance and efficiency over raw power, and without Council restrictions, those principles produced remarkable results. The ship moved through space like a living thing, changing direction and velocity in ways that confused the Council fleet's targeting systems. In-hee's enhanced reflexes allowed her to manually pilot the ship through defensive fire that would have destroyed any other vessel. "Firing main cannon," announced Weapons Officer Lieutenant Do-Yoon Kang. The weapon that struck the Council dreadnought was not the most powerful gun ever built, but it was the most precisely aimed. Human targeting systems, enhanced by genetic Modifications that improved pattern recognition and spatial reasoning achieved accuracy levels that bordered on miraculous. The beam punched through the dreadnought's shields and struck the exact point where its main power systems connected to the weapons array. The massive alien ship went dead in space, its entire offensive capability neutralized by a single perfectly placed shot. "Impossible," transmitted the Council Fleet commander. "Human weapons cannot penetrate our shields." Inhe smiled as she ordered the next attack. "You never bothered to find out what our weapons could really do." The Silent Fury continued its assault, moving through the Council Fleet like a predator among prey. Every shot was perfectly aimed, every maneuver was calculated to maximum effect. The human crew worked together with an efficiency that seemed almost telepathic, their enhanced genetics allowing them to anticipate each other's actions and coordinate in ways the Council had never seen. Within 2 hours, Inhe's single ship had disabled or destroyed 23 Council vessels, including 4 dreadnoughts. The surviving alien ships retreated in confusion, unable to understand how one primitive human vessel had decimated their superior force. Back on Earth, the war room watched the battle with amazement and growing excitement. "Admiral, we're receiving similar reports from across human space," Una announced. "Our forces are achieving victory ratios that should be statistically impossible. The genetic enhancements appear to have unlocked capabilities we never knew we possessed." Dr. Soyoung Bae, monitoring the biological effects of the treatments from her laboratory, provided additional context. "The reversals are accelerating naturally as humans face life-threatening situations. Combat stress is triggering genetic changes, even in individuals who haven't received formal treatment. We're witnessing the emergence of baseline human capabilities that have been suppressed for 2 generations. Admiral Cho felt a grim satisfaction. The Council had made a critical error in their planning. They had studied humans for 50 years, but they had only studied the artificially weakened version of humanity that their own manipulations had created. They had no idea what unmodified humans were capable of. "Colonel Sim, what's the status of our secret weapons projects? Dr. Park's team has completed the new arsenal." "Admiral, the weapons they've developed are frightening. Without Council restrictions on our research, human creativity in warfare appears to be essentially unlimited." Dr. Kyu-hyun Park joined the conversation via hologram from his hidden research facility. "Admiral, we have successfully weaponized human technological advantages that the Council never recognized. Our new plasma cannons achieve 300% greater efficiency than Council equivalents. Our missile systems use targeting algorithms that can predict enemy movement patterns with 97% accuracy. And our defensive systems—" He paused, seeming almost afraid to continue. "What about our defensive systems, Doctor? We have developed adaptive shielding that learns from enemy weapons and becomes more effective with each attack. In testing, our shields actually became stronger when fired upon repeatedly. The Council's strategy of overwhelming firepower will work against them." The news was almost too good to believe, but reports from across human space confirmed that something extraordinary was happening. Human forces that should have been easily defeated were not just surviving, they were winning decisive victories against technologically superior opponents. Commander Hyuk Nam, still operating near the secret Council facility in the Vega system, provided additional intelligence that explained part of their success. "Admiral, I have been monitoring Council communications during the recent battles. They are completely unprepared for human tactical thinking. Their battle plans assume we will behave predictably and defensively. When our forces take aggressive, creative action, their command structure cannot adapt quickly enough to respond. The pattern was clear across multiple engagements. Council forces would approach human positions expecting minimal resistance from an inferior opponent. Instead, they encountered defensive strategies that seemed to anticipate their every move, followed by counterattacks that exploited weaknesses they had not known existed. Human commanders with enhanced genetics were thinking on levels that their alien opponents could not match. They were processing battlefield information faster, developing tactics in real time, and coordinating complex operations with a precision that seemed almost supernatural. But the Council was not helpless. As reports of human victories reached their high command, they began to adapt their strategy. "Admiral, incoming priority transmission from Council High Command," Una announced. The main screen displayed the imposing figure of Council Prime Director Zalthon, the highest-ranking alien in the galactic government. His species was known for their cold logic and complete lack of emotion, but even he seemed shaken by recent events. Human Admiral Cho, Fleet Admiral Yunhei Song stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching through the main display as the largest Council armada in galactic history approached Earth. 5,000 ships stretched across space in perfect formation, their combined firepower capable of cracking planets and boiling away atmospheres. It was a force designed to end the human threat permanently. What the Council did not know was that humanity had been preparing for this moment with the desperate intensity of a species fighting for survival. The genetic enhancements had unlocked not just individual capabilities, but collective human potential that had been suppressed for generations. "Admiral, all human fleets report ready," announced Captain Ji-Won Park from her position at the tactical station. Her experiences discovering the Council conspiracy had earned her a place in the final battle's command structure. "Fleet composition?" Yunhei asked. 700 ships total, all equipped with the new weapons systems and defensive technologies. "Admiral, our forces are outnumbered 7-1. Yunhei smiled grimly. The numbers looked impossible, but they did not tell the complete story. Every human ship had been rebuilt using technologies that the Council had forbidden for 50 years. Every human crew member had undergone genetic reversal treatment that restored capabilities their species had forgotten they possessed. "Dr. Lee, status of the Liberation Protocol?" Dr. Sung-Ho Lee looked up from his communication console, where he had been preparing humanity's final gambit. "The quantum broadcast system is ready, Admiral. We can transmit the genetic reversal sequence to every inhabited world in the galaxy simultaneously. The Liberation Protocol was humanity's most audacious plan. Dr. Lee had discovered that the same principles used to suppress human genetics could be reversed and applied to other species. The Council had been manipulating dozens of alien races for centuries, and humanity was about to free all of them at once. Begin the transmission as soon as the Council fleet enters weapons range. On the approaching Council ships, alien commanders prepared for what they expected to be a simple extermination operation. Humans had shown unexpected resistance in recent battles, but the overwhelming superiority of Council forces would make the outcome inevitable. Council Prime Director Zalthon observed the approaching battle from his flagship, confident that the human problem would finally be resolved. "Admiral Korthak, begin bombardment of the human homeworld as soon as we reach optimal range. I want this species eliminated completely." Admiral Korthak, a veteran commander from the Dracon Empire, studied his tactical displays with growing unease. "Director, the human fleet positioning seems unusual. They are not adopting standard defensive formations. Irrelevant. Their primitive tactics cannot overcome our technological superiority." But as the Council fleet drew closer to Earth, Korthak noticed more details that troubled him. The human ships were not clustered around their home world as expected. Instead, they had spread throughout the solar system in a complex three-dimensional pattern that seemed to serve no obvious defensive purpose. "Director, I recommend caution. Human behavior in recent engagements suggests they may have developed new capabilities." Zalthon's species had no capacity for fear or uncertainty, but his analysis of recent battle reports had identified patterns that defied logical explanation. "Proceed with the attack, Admiral. If humans have developed new technologies, we will adapt and overcome them." The Council fleet entered Earth's solar system in perfect formation, weapons charged and targeting systems locked onto human positions. They expected the battle to last perhaps an hour before human resistance collapsed. What happened instead would be remembered across the galaxy for millennia. "Now," Admiral Yunhei commanded quietly. Every human ship opened fire simultaneously, but not at the Council fleet. Instead, they targeted specific points in space that seemed to contain nothing but vacuum. The concentrated energy strikes hit hidden devices that Dr. Sung-Ho Lee's team had positioned throughout the solar system over the past weeks. The devices activated in sequence, creating a massive quantum field that enveloped the entire solar system. The Liberation Protocol began transmitting on frequencies that penetrated every ship, every communication system, and every brain in the battle zone. "What is happening?" Admiral Korthak demanded as his instruments detected the strange energy. "Patterns." The answer came not from his sensors, but from his own crew. Across the Council fleet, alien species that had been genetically modified for compliance and obedience began to remember what they had been before the Council's manipulations. On Korthak's own ship, Draken warriors who had been bred for loyalty suddenly felt the return of their species' natural aggression and independence. The genetic changes happened rapidly, triggered by the quantum field that was rewriting their DNA in real time. "Admiral, our crew is experiencing some kind of biological transformation," reported the ship's medical officer, his voice filled with confusion and growing anger. Similar reports flooded in from across the Council fleet as dozens of alien species underwent genetic reversals that restored their original nature. Species that had been turned into obedient servants remembered that they had once been proud, independent civilizations. Warriors recalled their heritage. Scientists rediscovered their creativity. Entire cultures began to wake up from centuries of artificial compliance. But the Council fleet's confusion was only the beginning of humanity's strategy. "Admiral, enemy formation is breaking apart," Captain Jiwan reported with satisfaction. "Multiple ships are engaging each other instead of us." As the genetic reversals took effect, the Council's carefully maintained alliance began to collapse. Species that had been forced into cooperation suddenly remembered ancient grievances and territorial disputes. Ships that had been working together moments before now turned their weapons on each other. "Phase 2, Admiral Yunhei ordered. The human fleet, which had seemed scattered and defensively positioned, suddenly revealed its true purpose. Every ship was positioned to take advantage of the chaos in the Council formation. As alien vessels turned on each other, human forces struck with precision and coordination that seemed impossible. Captain In-hee Choi's Silent Fury led the assault, her enhanced tactical abilities allowing her to predict and exploit every opening. In the confused enemy formation, her ship danced through the battle zone, striking crippling blows against Council vessels that were too busy fighting each other to defend themselves properly. Engineer Wu Jin Han's technological innovations proved their worth as human weapons achieved impossible levels of accuracy and effectiveness. Council ships found their shields failing against weapons that seemed to adapt to their defenses in real time. But the most devastating aspect of the human attack was psychological. The Council's leadership had built their strategy around the assumption that their subject species would remain loyal and obedient. When those species suddenly regained their independence and turned against their former masters, the entire Council command structure collapsed. "This is impossible," Prime Director Zalthon transmitted to his flagship's bridge crew. "The subject species cannot resist genetic conditioning. Director, we are receiving surrender requests from 47 Council ships," Admiral Korthak reported, his own voice showing signs of the genetic changes affecting his species. Their crews are requesting asylum from human forces rather than continuing to fight. The situation deteriorated rapidly for the Council as more and more ships defected or simply withdrew from the battle. Species that had been enslaved for centuries saw an opportunity for freedom and took it eagerly. Ambassador Jian Moon, humanity's final diplomatic representative, broadcast a message to the remaining Council forces. "To all sentient species in this battle zone, the Council has deceived and manipulated you for centuries. They have altered your genetics, suppressed your cultures, and used you as weapons against other innocent civilizations. Humanity offers alliance to all species seeking freedom from Council tyranny." The response was immediate and overwhelming. Across the battle zone, alien ships began broadcasting acceptance of the human offer. Entire fleets that had come to destroy. Earth instead joined the growing rebellion against the Council. Within 6 hours, what had begun as a Council extermination fleet had become a multi-species alliance dedicated to overthrowing their former oppressors. The few remaining loyal Council ships found themselves hopelessly outnumbered and outgunned. Prime Director Zalthon, isolated on his flagship with the last remnants of the Council leadership, made a final desperate transmission. "Humans, you do not understand what you have done. The Council maintained order and stability across the galaxy for thousands of years. Without our guidance, these species will return to chaos and warfare." Admiral Yunhei responded personally, her enhanced genetics allowing her to project confidence and authority that seemed to reach across space itself. Director Zalthon, the Council maintained order through deception, manipulation, and genocide. We have given these species something you tried to take away, the freedom to choose their own path. You offer them war and suffering. We offer them truth and liberty. They can decide for themselves what to do with those gifts. The final phase of the battle was not really a battle at all. the remaining council ships,